Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing The Witcher. I was hesitant to tackle this show, admittedly. I only started reading the books recently, and my experience with the video games is one of me buying them with high ambitions, only to have them sit in my Steam library unfinished for years. I will say my experience watching this first season was enjoyable. The elements of magic the runic Witcher signs to complement his incredible skill with a blade made the fight scenes some of the more pleasing sequences that I've seen in a long time. The weight of each battle, hell, the weight of each strike felt real. I have played enough of the games to know how the signs work, and seeing more of this Witcher sign magic in battle would have been really nice. I'm not saying go overboard and maybe, overdo it, but the signs offer an incredible battle experience in this universe that makes the melee combat system that much cooler, and upping the special effects budget just a little bit to accommodate would have again been really nice to see. Which brings me to one of two faults that I have with the show. Again, I liked it. I really, really did like it. But the CGI was lacking, underfunded, something. I mean, multiple times I found myself taken out of this immersion because of something that looked so weird to me. I just couldn't help but think, really? Netflix, really pay your animators more money or hire better ones. I won't pretend to know the logistics that would need to go to improve this. Just improve it. I should not have been subjected to this thing. I've stared at it for a good 10 minutes outside of the normal screen time it had, just trying to figure this thing out, and it haunts me. I can't figure out if that's by design or because it's 2020 and it looks like Lara Croft circa 1996. I expect this is because high quality animation cost millions more, and they've already shelled out millions, and Netflix was not ready to shell out this extra polish money for a show that has yet to see the light of day and produce them anything. Season 2 and onward, I imagine this will be much better as the cost can now be justified. Anyway, let's talk about it and make sense of this story. This entire season was the story of three main characters and their acceptance of a destined connection for a yet-to-be-revealed journey that they must undergo together. The three characters, of course, are Yennefer, Geralt, and Ciri. The way the showrunners wanted to tell this story was in a non-linear format, and that is honestly issue number 2. I've heard literally every single person who's talked about this show complain about it to some degree. The switching between past and present timelines was done from scene to scene, almost deceptively edited the story together, to suffer the same thing that season 1 of Westworld did, which people and critics were turned away because it was harder to follow than a linear storyline. My friend who loves this lore, who has read the books, who has been invested into this universe for years, played the game for years, she had a hard time following along, even after she understood who was in this story. If you're going to use this non-linear format, I have no issue with that at all, except you need to use it for a reason. Tell stories like this, sure, but make sure that you have a purpose in understanding why the story is being told like this and a payoff, a singular moment of awe. It wasn't used as a big reveal at the end of the season like Westworld Season 1, nor was it used at the end of the first episode to the same effect of, say, Chernobyl. Like, oh wow, I really need to pay attention to what happens between these two times and figure out how we get there. I don't mind creative choices like this, but I want them to pay off in a grandiose way that adds to that experience. With this, I felt that everyone just kind of figured it out over time, and we didn't really have that ultimate moment of awe and wonder. But with my two main issues with this first season out of the way, let's follow their stories individually, deconstruct this entire plot, as I think it's the best way to understand outright each of their journeys moving forward. So let's start off with my favorite character, Yennefer. I'm a big fan of the underdog story. Tell it a million times for all I care, because if you have a girl being called Piglet, sold by her father, disowned, beaten, mentally obliterated, and you bring her to become one of the most powerful people of all time, that will get me hyped every single time. I don't care. I love that shit. The deformity is caused by her mother sleeping with a half-elven man, and likely her father, who rears her throughout most of her life, knows this, and she becomes a daily reminder of her infidelity. It doesn't justify his actions, but it adds a silent depth that I really enjoyed learning. She is sold for less than a pig and imprisoned against her will. Over time, she learns to love herself in this place to a degree, understanding her worth and finally the power she possesses until she leaves the school stronger than ever. But not before changing the way she looks, becoming as beautiful as she ever wanted to be, but at a cost. The choice would have her lose her ability to give birth. As with magic in this world, it all comes with a price, in exchange for using this mythical power. This starts small, with a flower being used to levitate a rock, and gets the final reinforcement of this potent trade when giant magic spheres are hurled at a castle, each one trading the caster's life for what would be a devastating blow. But more on that later. Yennefer leaves Aretuza and serves the Queen Callis. She is unable to bear a male child for the king, so he has her assassinated. Yennefer tries to save the child, but the assassin's dagger still hits, and she buries the child in a shallow grave on the beach. This is 30 years after the transformation, and this is important to note because before I knew that, the sudden switch of her transformation to suddenly wanting children again seemed way too quick. I mean, it was like a couple episodes apart. But we're seeing important defining moments of all of their lives over the course of this first season. And this is potentially the first time she starts to realize the importance of legacy and what exactly she gave away when she sees the complete story of this dead baby girl pass in front of her purple eyes. After her appointment dies, she goes solo, leaving the Brotherhood behind and practicing magic on her own. That's when she arrives in this town, doing Viagra magic, and takes over the mayor's house in a sensual, out-of-body experience. Okay, it was an orgy. We all saw it. At this point, we see her meeting Geralt for the first time, and eventually him making the last Djinn wish. But no one knows what that wish was for, only that it's linked them together in the same Destiny-esque way that Geralt and Ciri are linked. We see her next when she's taken to a noble sir of Denisel, probably for a price, but that isn't really talked about, just that she's there for a dragon heart for her own fertility treatment, kind of behind the scenes. We also learn that Nilfgaard with Fringilla as the mage is burning through the south, working their way to Cintra. If you recall, Yennefer was supposed to be their mage, and during the hunt, she's told that perhaps their religious pursuit could have been altered with a better mage advising their kingdom, which is a valid claim, and has probably weighed heavy on her in the later episodes. We also learn that Geralt and Yen had been running into each other multiple times and hooking up off-screen in between the first meeting and now. They part ways after Yennefer believes that Geralt made the wish to keep her with him, that their love wasn't genuine or real, but that it was magic. And they part ways, and we next see Yennefer at the Nilfgaard-controlled dig site, where her old fling is studying runes that date back before mankind existed in this continent, before the conjunction of spheres, which was the mysterious event that brought humans and monsters to this world. Yennefer is tricked into coming back to Aretuza, and the mages vote on whether to protect Cintra, or let it fend for itself. Ultimately, they lose the vote, but Tissaia convinces Yennefer to help them protect the rest of the northern kingdoms, fearing what the world would look like if Nilfgaard was allowed to continue this crusade. Which brings me to the Battle of Sodden Hill, easily my favorite part of Season 1. This extraordinary battle showcases the powers that could exist, and honestly, it feels like a taste of magic that will shape the world in this story in coming seasons, and I cannot wait to see more of these spells, of these incredible fight scenes. At this point, Cintra is already lost, and this battle ends with Yennefer casting fire across acres of land and then just disappearing. Now, I don't think this is the end of Yen, so it's likely just put her in a weakened state, and then she's like maybe teleported somewhere to recover, or like a self-defense mechanism, or a character that we haven't seen yet has taken her out of this battle to kind of like, rebuild her and make sure that she's on the right path. I think that could exist. Next, we come to Geralt and Ciri's story, of which I'm combining these two for ease of understanding. Geralt was born many years before Ciri, to seemingly a loving home, with his mother Visina kind of alluding to some form of magic. The lore notes that she is a druid, healer, and sorceress, so she likely knew exactly what she was doing when she abandoned him at Kaer Morhen, the birthplace of witchers. Off-screen, he goes through this intensive training, he becomes a witcher, and the first time we see him is at Blaviken, where he becomes known as the Butcher. He meets Jaskar, and they travel together trying to solve the case of the missing crops, but they are caught by this hideous fucking abomination called a Sven. Sliven? I don't care anymore.
I am Torque, the Sylvan, a rare and intelligent creature! You're a dick.
I will tell you what, if they advertised this haunting mug before the series released, it would have gotten the same Sonic the Hedgehog treatment. Guarantee it. No one would have watched this until the whole fucking internet lost their shit trying to change it. They are eventually captured, but then released when the elves, who were the original inhabitants of this land, trust Geralt. I have a feeling this King Filavandrel will play a big part in this story at some point. He's the king of elves who is fighting to remain alive as a species, and that's a pretty interesting element in this universe that I hope they explore further. They move on and meet the Northern King, who has a problem with a Striga. He risks his life and limb to restore this creature back into the human form that she would have been, but if you didn't catch it, she was literally an abortion incarnate, with the umbilical cord still attached. Pretty gnarly. One of my favorite monsters this season. And next we travel to the parents of Ciri, Pervetta and Duny. After things go south in this banquet, he saves Duny, honoring the promise that was made to him, and as a reward jokingly asks the same reward, the Law of Surprise. Now, at first I didn't get this at all. I was like, well, I mean, you just saw what this does. Why do it again? But on second rewatch, it really highlights how rare a child surprise is. More times than not, with the Law of Surprise, you get a bumper crop or a beer or something much less than a whole human life. It's anything you find at home that you don't expect after you get back. But as she vomits on the dance floor, it's pretty clear lightning struck twice, and he's bound to their child, Ciri. She is born in Cintra, but at this point, Geralt is already left for more adventure. He believes not in destiny, but is very much made to believe it over the course of this season. He travels further, meets Yen, while Ciri grows to be the lion cub. After Yennefer and he fight at the dragon hunt, he's made aware of the Nilfgaardian advance, and is kind of also shamed by Yennefer for abandoning his child's surprise, so he goes back to her. He wants to take her further north to protect her in case Cintra falls, but the queen doesn't listen and tries to fool him with another girl that looks similar. He's understandably upset, and the queen imprisons Geralt, but it didn't do much good as he just lets himself out, but finds the kingdom being sacked. He does make it to safety, and luckily Ciri did too, using some hereditary powers that we still need to learn more about. She goes on the run and stays in refugee camps, meets the dryads of Brokilon Forest, and unleashes magic that saves her life and foreshadows what may be the most powerful magic user we'll see, with training, that is. Around this time, Geralt is bitten by a ghoul and taken by this man to safety. The only reason he survived this is because of his superhuman abilities. Another bite and he likely would have been a goner. This kind gentleman just happens to be the husband of the woman who took in Ciri after she fled the last refugee camp. They meet in the forest and finally embrace. It was a touching moment and sealed with Ciri asking who Yennefer was, which she should have no clue about, let alone know a name, verifying right at the last moment that she too is fated to join them. The yellow, purple, and green eyes coming together to be a legendary force to be reckoned with for a yet-to-be-determined reason. Now, again, she's MIA after the Battle of Sodden Hill, but she is a very big part of the story and probably teleported somewhere just to recoup. I think after this, they will go on their way back to Kaer Morhen, and Ciri will train as a witcher, as the lore roughly goes. However, I do wonder if next season they'll be on the trek to this famed castle, or if they'll start us there and we'll see even more of her abilities being finely tuned, with Geralt training her Witcher abilities alongside his teacher, Vesemir, who is rumored may be Mark Hamill, and Yennefer tapping into the magic deep inside of her, a hybrid amazing, badass warrior chick. Yeah, I'm here for it. I love it. I have high hopes for the series, and I really, really cannot wait for second season. I do wish they didn't tell the story in this non-linear way. On first watch, you literally have no frackin' clue what happens when. Even after you figure out multiple timelines are happening, it's hard to follow when is when. For me, breaking the story down like this has really helped my understanding and my enjoyment, and I hope it did yours too. With that in mind, though, we come to the end of the video. If you like this, please be sure to subscribe for more. Special thank you to all of the wonderful humans that support me here and on Twitter, which if you don't follow me, you should. Here's the handle. Also, I can't state enough how much Patreon helps this channel out. Every single video is a copyright battle, and thankfully I've been winning most of those, but who knows how long that will be on YouTube. My top supporters, Robert Holtz and Micheal Linck, are two incredible people that I hope you'll consider joining them on that platform as well. Much love, everybody, and I can't wait to talk to you all again soon.